Hi there, crypto fans. Dick Allgire here today. Not talking about cryptos, I'm talking about remote viewing and consciousness. Bitcoin's not doing a damn thing, so there's no reason to even look at it. This is kind of a chicken and the egg type of question. Which comes first, matter or consciousness? Does matter evolve into more sentience and create consciousness out of raw matter? Or does consciousness create the illusion of matter? Actually, everything is pure mind and pure consciousness, so it's mind that creates matter. But the question is, where does remote viewing fit into all of this?
Whatever reality is, it's not what you see. What you see is just an adaptive fiction.
Donald Hoffman is a professor of cognitive sciences at UC Irvine. He was trained at MIT. He was recently on the Lex Fridman podcast, and it was an extremely interesting conversation. And it relates directly to remote viewing. So I want to play a few clips of Professor Hoffman. And these are done with a tip of the hat to Lex Fridman, courtesy to the Lex Fridman podcast. I'm going to play about 4 clips and have a little discussion about what he's theorizing. Hoffman is trying to understand consciousness, and he knows that the answer will probably not be found in space-time and reductionism. Space-time is the notion that the universe, exists in a 3-dimensional reality with galaxies being up there and out there, the Earth below our feet, and that something's over there and something's over there, and it's all contained within these 3 dimensions. And within that exists time as a linear thing, so that the past is back there, and there's a straight line to the present, which is now, and the future will be on a straight line happening out there. He knows something's not quite right with that. And the other theory that he's going to discuss in this next clip is reductionism. Reductionism is trying to find smaller and smaller and smaller bits of matter, looking at molecules and then looking at atoms, and then using CERN to try to find the creation of the smallest bits of atom. What Hoffman and other scientists are realizing is that Newton and Einstein, those were so previous centuries. We need a new way to look at consciousness and matter.
Space-time has had a good run. Reductionism has been a fantastic methodology. So we had a great ontology of space-time, a great methodology of reductionism. Now it's time for a new trick. But now you need to go deeper and show, but by the way, this doesn't mean we throw away everything we've done, not by a long shot. Every new idea that we come up with beyond space-time must project precisely into space-time, and it better give us back everything that we know and love in space-time, or generalizations, or it's not going to be taken seriously, and it shouldn't be. So we have a strong constraint on whatever we're going to do beyond space-time. It needs to project into space-time, and whatever this deeper theory is, it may not itself have evolution by natural selection. This may not be part of this deeper realm. But when we take whatever that thing is beyond space-time and project it into space-time, it has to look like evolution by natural selection, or it's wrong.
So now some scientists, like Professor Hoffman, are starting to realize that consciousness is not actually contained within synapses and nerve endings and cells within the brain. For example, if you remember the sound of your mother's voice, did the sound of your mother's voice penetrate your eardrums and then create some type of imprint on cells in your brain? And when you remember your mother's voice, you're retrieving that sound from a hard drive recording in your brain? Maybe not.
Before, we thought that when we looked in the brain, we saw neurons and neural networks and action potentials and synapses and so forth, and that was it. That was the reality. Now we have to reverse engineer that. We have to say, what is beyond space-time? What is going on? What is a dynamical system beyond space-time that when we project it into Einstein's space-time gives us things that look like neurons and neural networks and synapses? So we have to reverse engineer it. So there's going to be lots more work for neuroscience. It's going to be far more complicated and difficult and challenging. But that's wonderful. That's what we need to do. We thought neurons exist when they aren't perceived, and they don't. In the same way that if I show you, when I say they don't exist, I should be very, very concrete. If I draw on a piece of paper a little sketch of something that is called the Necker cube, it's just a little line drawing of a cube, right? It's on a flat piece of paper. If I execute it well, and I show it to you, you'll see a 3D cube, and you'll see it flip. Sometimes you'll see one face in front, sometimes you'll see the other face in front. But if I ask you, which face is in front when you don't look? The answer is, well, neither face is in front because there's no cube. There's just a flat piece of paper. Yeah. So when you look at the piece of paper, you perceptually create the cube. And when you look at it, then you fix one face to be in front and one face to be in. So that's what I mean when I say it doesn't exist. Space-time itself is like the cube. It's a data structure that your sensory systems construct, whatever your sensory systems mean now, because we now have to not even take that for granted. Mm-hmm. But there are perceptions that you construct on the fly, and they're data structures in a computer science sense, and you garbage collect them when you don't need them. So you create them and garbage collect them.
So he is searching for a way to understand consciousness outside of space and time.
I would love to find, and we can talk about that at some point, a theory of consciousness in which the dynamics of consciousness itself will give rise to the geometry that the physicists are finding beyond space-time. If we can do that, then we'd have a completely different way of looking at how consciousness is related to what we call the brain or the physical world more generally. Right now, all of my brilliant colleagues, 99% of them, are trying to, they're assuming space-time is fundamental. They're assuming that particles are fundamental. Quarks, gluons, leptons, and so forth. Elements, atoms, and so forth are fundamental, and that therefore neurons and brains are part of objective reality. And that somehow when you get matter that's complicated enough, it will somehow generate conscious experiences by its functional properties. Or if you're panpsychist, maybe you, in addition to the physical properties of particles, you add a consciousness property as well. And then you combine these physical and conscious properties to get more complicated ones. But they're all doing it within space-time. Mm-hmm. All of the work that's being done on consciousness and its relationship to the brain is all assumed something that our best theories are telling us is doomed, space-time.
Of course, remote viewing proves every day of the week that consciousness is outside of space and time. The definition of remote viewing is the ability to obtain sensory data on demand across space and time. We do it regularly. I personally have done this hundreds and hundreds of times under a very good protocol where we've proved it over and over and over again. We can give you example where using nothing but a target ID, we accurately see, describe, and get sensory information about things that are in the past, things that are happening right now simultaneously, and quite often we have a regular feature where we remote view future events and are able to see, sketch, and publish future events before they actually happen. So how does this fit into the space-time model, the linear time model of physics? Well, it doesn't. Smart people like Professor Hoffman are starting to realize that we need to look outside of this paradigm. He is a most interesting individual. I believe he's on the right track. Would love to have a conversation with him and show him some of our remote viewing experiments. Anyway, interesting subject. What are your thoughts? Please like and subscribe, and then this one would be a good one to post your comments. I'll read your comments and we'll do future updates discussing your commentary.